I'm Anna, the facilitator of idtalks, and we are very, very happy to be back with Interfaith Dialogue for Community and Peace Building series of the idtalks. We will have 5 talks this spring, every second Wednesday, 1 p.m. Central European Time, focusing on the topics of faith, religion, interreligious dialogue, identity, community building, peace and reconciliation. Today's talk is our first one in the series, and we would like to focus today on understanding interfaith dialogue. If you are wondering what the interfaith dialogue is and what we can learn from it, why it is important and why it is still relevant very much today, we discovered it together with an amazing speaker, Meg Villanueva. I think I am not very good at pronouncing your last name. From Philippines. I could go on and on telling about Meg. And a little secret is that I also have had pleasure working with her before. Meg has almost 20 years experience of hands-on work in conflict transformation. She's a peace practitioner working in different regions and areas throughout the world, in Spain, in South Caucasus, Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan, working in Latin America and the Caribbean, with projects extending from peace education curriculum design to reconciliation and healing work. Currently she is residing in Philippines in a beautiful island of Siargao. She loves surfing, doing yoga, mindfulness exercise, and also promotes sustainability in her local community. It is my pleasure to welcome you, Meg, to the idtalks today, and the floor from now on is yours.
Thank you, Anna. I hope you can all hear me. Yes?
Yes, we do.
Very happy to be here, and so happy to also see so many people connecting from different parts of Europe and actually beyond. So I would like to apologize that my video is rather a bit dark. It's nighttime here, and I don't have those sophisticated ring lights. Um, Not anymore, at least. I used to have it when I do a lot of these things. So yeah, as Anna mentioned, my name is Meg, and I'm happy to be here with all of you today. As also mentioned, my background is in peace and conflict transformation work, where I have engaged with intercultural and interfaith communities, mostly in Eastern Europe and the Caucasus, in Indonesia, and in my home country in the Philippines. And most of my work here in the Philippines is focused on Mindanao, the southern part of the country, which is very culturally diverse and where the Muslim majority resides. So the Philippines is a very Christian and a very Catholic country. And if you have heard, there's an armed conflict, or there was an armed conflict for 40 years running and more. And a lot of it has something to do with religion and faiths. And I was fortunate enough to be part of many different initiatives to actually forge peace and coexistence with different groups, these different groups. And I started very young because my parents were working in this field. So when I started, I remember attending my very first interfaith dialogues and being transformed being transformed by the different things that I was learning back then. Yes.
Fear, distrust, intolerance. These seeds of conflict are planted inside the next generation, feeding the cycle of grief. These are our children. With them lies hope. Their faces should not become the faces of conflict. Peace Tech offers a simple solution: the global classroom. Global Classroom is the portal to other cultures, enabling youth to experience their commonalities and differences while they learn, by seeing faces similar to their own, living lives parallel to theirs. This opportunity to study and play together creates friendships and spawns understanding and compassion. We are bridging classrooms from some of the most conflict-affected regions in the Philippines. This is a model which can be replicated in Asia, North America, Europe, and eventually the Middle East. It will enrich learning and build tolerance where it is most needed. These are the seeds of peace planted in the global classroom, with the hope that the conflict will someday end. Join us at Peace Tech for the global classroom.
Thank you, Anna, for sharing this. So just a very, very quick glimpse of how I was actually introduced to the whole interfaith and intercultural dialogue. And I remember the classes that I would, so it was a partnership with the Ministry of Education of the Philippines. And the idea is to keep promoting peace, especially in these divided communities. And you will see that we were connecting people from Manila. So Philippines is a country of 7,000 islands. So we are divided into many different islands, and a lot of these young people do not have the opportunity to actually meet Muslims in the south, for example. So by learning together and by having school sessions together, and this was way before the pandemic, when we were using Skype then. This was around 2006 to 2010. And so what I learned from this experience was really the importance of first learning about each other and understanding where our experiences are coming from, where our prejudices are coming from, where our stereotypes are coming from, and going from there. So I just wanted to share that very quickly to give everyone a quick overview and to contextualize where my sharing today on interfaith dialogue will be coming from. So I I have read that a lot of you are very interested in this ID talks for many different reasons. Some of you wanted to know about the best practices in storytelling and how storytelling can be used to avoid the misuse in interfaith dialogue, for example. Some of you are actually also very interested to learn and to share with other people that you don't have to relate all the time religion with your nationality. Yeah, so hopefully we get to explore that angle as well. And some of you have mentioned your interest in the Israeli-Palestinian situation, which is happening right now. And maybe even considering of shifting your career into from linguistics to international relations and human rights. So I'm very happy to see all these intentions and motivations for joining here. And I'm pretty sure that there's a lot more from the rest of you here that I did not mention. And I really hope that we get to address some of your questions or some of your interests through this ID talks. So first, I would like to invite everyone in a short exercise. And with this short exercise, it's really, so the point of this session today that we have is to understand and to explore what is interfaith dialogue. Yes? So, and in this short exercise, I would like to invite you all to an idea boards link. You can still, those who have who did not put the English translation, please feel free. Okay, you know what's a very interesting word for me here, which also came out when the organizers actually wrote to me, was the word interconvictional. And that's a word that doesn't that it's not in my line of work, and here in the Philippines at least it's not used so much. And so that's why it's very interesting for me to also explore on this concept, and also to see it in this idea boards. Okay, so why did I do this exercise? So in the peace building work that I've been involved in, especially when my work or my trainings actually bring together young people from different cultures, different backgrounds. When we explore, for example, the topic of peace, the topic of conflict, the topic of violence, I found it very interesting that in the past we would explore these concepts using the English language. But then if you go deep down into the local cultures, there's these local nuances, there's local understandings, there's local ways of interpreting, and local ways of embracing these different concepts or different terms. And that's why I invited you to do this short exercise today, is for us to take a step back and to think about how our own cultures, how our own countries, how our own selves even understand the concept of intercultural dialogue to begin with. It's different to understand interfaith, intercultural dialogue from from the academic perspective, no, from youth work perspective. And it is very important that we bring it back to our communities. How do our, because we work in our communities, how do our communities actually understand these terms? How do our communities understand these concepts that we are exploring ourselves? And to be linked or to be able to connect to these understanding. Because if not, the work that we will be doing will not be echoed or will not maybe be understood in the local communities that we might be working with. And so here, you will see this slide. We will be exploring the two words. So we will be kind of like stitching these two words together. But first we go to the term interfaith. And there are many different definitions of interfaith, intercultural dialogue, and all these concepts that we have. And what I share here and propose here is one definition that might be useful. And of course, feel free to share if you have another definition that you find to be very easy to understand and very easy to teach, for example. So interfaith as relations with different faiths. Yeah, and you will see here that there's a difference in a way between interfaith and interreligious, and later on we will dive deeper into faith and religion as well. Yes. So here you will see interfaith is the relationship or the connection between different faiths, and interreligious as the connection or the relations with other religions, so between different religions. Next slide. Very important is whatever it is, interfaith, intercultural, inter whatever. The thing is that I would like to invite everyone to focus on the concept of dialogue. Okay? So one of the concepts or one of the explanations for this, and I think we have Greek friends who are here. Correct me if I'm wrong with my pronunciation and also with maybe even the way I understand. But when I was doing different sessions of intercultural and interfaith dialogue in the context of violent extremism, for example, which is the most recent project that I have done, it was shared with us that the term dialogue uh, comes from this Greek term, and that we should not be confused with the duo and dia or dia. Duo means two, yeah. So dialogue does not mean conversation between two people, but rather it means conversation wherein there is an understanding, like two people or more, that they will be sharing, comparing, they will be explaining different perspectives and different points of view. So here, the prefix dia is equivalent to the Latin word trans, in the sense of transformation, for example, which means a shift, which means a change, which means not necessarily a reversal, but a shift or a change in space, time, substance, or thought. So, any thoughts about this way of explaining or this way of conceptualizing dialogue? I see Farkanda sharing something, and I'm going to read through the chat as well. But yes, I would like to invite you to share. So Farkanda shared, dialogue is getting into the shoes of the others to see things from a different perspective. Yeah, so this is the Daya concept. Yeah, it's not so much just about two people talking and coming together and talking, but more of like seeing something from the other perspective, or even having this acceptance or having this understanding that we are making this interaction to be able to cross, or to be able to cross over, to be able to look at the other side. Yes, anyone else who would like to share anything with this with this concept that we are seeing? Yeah.
I think there is a general agreement to the definition in the chat and also in the board that you were sharing. So also maybe to remind our participants that by default, everybody that enters the room is muted. So if you would like to say something, you need to raise a hand, or you can also write it in a chat, and then Meg, I will help you screening through the chat. No worries about that.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Yes, anyway, we still get to explore here, and I'm loving that you are engaging in the chat. Yeah, so I would like to ask, before we move to the next slide, I would like to ask maybe one or two experiences, or one or two transformative experiences of interfaith dialogue. Does anyone have?
Yes, I'm from Romania. I'm a religion teacher, and I studied Orthodox theology in Bucharest. One of my most interesting experiences about interfaith dialogue was when I was a student, and one of our teachers invited to our theology faculty two Catholic persons from I don't know exactly in English, the Sisters of Charity from Teresa, you know, the Teresa sister who founded a community, a Catholic community for charity, for helping very poor people. And it was so interesting to hear the two sisters of charity telling us about their way of life. And we were all a room full of Orthodox students in communion, in dialogue with the Catholic young persons who told us about how they help children, orphan children all over the world. And even it was very interesting that they encouraged the children to be educated in their own faith. Although they were Catholics, they had in care Orthodox, Protestant, Muslims, and so on, and they encourage each child to remain in her or his own religious community. And they used to go home only 2 weeks at years, and in all the because they in all the rest of the time they went from a country to another with their mission to help people, and they loved God so much, and they loved people so much. And it was a moment when I understood the importance of the communion between the different faiths and different ways of helping each other. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura.
Terry, you're unmuted now.
Hi, good afternoon. I think it's very interesting, your discussion. I work with a group in Preston in England, which is made up of Muslims, Christians, and also people of non-faith. And it's very interesting to share your ideas, what your faith is about, because I think also faith isn't just a religious word. I think faith is having faith in other people, about listening to them. I think it's also important as a youth worker, when you're working with young people, you don't ask them their religion, because I'm a Catholic and I never go to a young person and say, what is your religion? I think what you do by journeying with them, and I think it was Pope John the 23rd said, do not walk in my shoes. And I think even the American Indians say that you must travel with people, have faith in me. And I think it's so important, like the young person said before, that don't be frightened of expressing your faith. But the problem is, what you've got to be very careful of is to listen, because we live in a very multi-faith, multicultural society here in Preston, which I think is absolutely fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing this, Terry. I see Zoe is raising his hand, but I hope that it's okay that we continue, because we actually have another space later on to keep the discussion as well. So let's continue. So in the next slide, you will see actually some definitions of interfaith dialogue put together. And so one is this interaction, and like I said earlier, it's not just about two people talking, but this interaction has something deeper. And the aim is to promote mutual understanding between these different beliefs, these different faiths. And why do we want to promote, or why do we want this understanding to happen? And it's very simple. It's to increase social cohesion, to increase unity, and solidarity, and for having openness to accepting each other. Another definition that is also widely used, and you've seen it in the introductions as well of the ID talks, is that it's this cooperative, constructive, and positive interaction between people of different faiths and or spiritual or humanistic beliefs at both the individual and the institutional levels. So we will go to the next slide just so that we will smoothly finish, and we are actually really looking forward to having a nice discussion. And you will see here, like a few things always when I engage, or when we engage in my community in interfaith dialogue, is a sharing of different principles or different values that come with it. So you could read through, and one of the things that is always invited when we come into dialogue is the intention to learn, the intention to understand, and the intention to grow from our side, and not so much to change the opinion or to change the side of the other person. So if we go back to this definition of dialogue using this Greek term dia, the transformation is actually something that we embrace from our side. And I think this is a very important aspect to consider. The concept of honesty and sincerity is also there. And it's very important that when we enter into dialogue, there is this honesty and sincerity and authenticity. Also the idea of not assuming where we would like to advance or strategize about changing the ideas or changing the perspectives of the other person. And lastly, if you see this, the last one, the transformational aspect again, the idea to strive to experience the other faith from within, to be prepared to view things differently, and to be prepared to engage, to dance, and to engage with the other perspectives that we are learning. Next slide, please. So one of the things that was in the question, no? What is the value of interfaith dialogue in this context where religion is used as a vehicle for violence, when religion is usually misused as a justification for doing bad things, for doing violent things? So who among us here identifies with A, religion, B, spirituality, or C, both? Just in the chat box, I would like to maybe see quickly where we are. So A, religion, B, spirituality, and C, both. Okay, so we see a lot of people with the C, some people with A's, and some people with B, and okay, we have also one with none. 2, 3. Interesting. We will discuss that. And yes, sure, we can add D, nothing or none, and we'll be happy to explore this option as well. Next slide, please. So just very quickly, one of the things as well that was given to me was to try to introduce, or at least to give definition for religion and spirituality. And here you will see in the slide religion as a collection of cultural systems, belief systems, or worldviews that relate us to spirituality and sometimes to moral values. So some of us, or most of us, pertain or identify with a specific religion. And we have our narratives, we have our symbols, we have our traditions, our histories, and we use it to give meaning to our lives. Next slide. And I had a hard time looking for a definition of spirituality. And so I would like to present this slide instead, wherein you will see kind of like how we put them together, how different they are, but also how interlinked or how similar and related they are. So you will see here like two circles. On the left is religion and what are the different elements that is linked to religion. And on the right, we have spirituality and the different manifestations of spirituality. And in the middle, you will see what brings them both together. Yeah. So in this, by looking at this, I think we can maybe open discussion. Anna, I don't know how you want. I would like to end here as a food for thought. And if there are more questions and more things that we would like to explore, we can do it in the discussion. I don't know how you would like to do the next part of this session.
Yes,
And
sure, Meg. And
yes.
let's start with group number 3. Why not?
Hello. So, no, I was actually doing like giving a thumbs up because you said, okay, why not we start with room number 3? Then, okay. Anyway.
But since you're unmuted, maybe
yeah.
you just take the opportunity and speak on behalf of your group.
Definitely. So yeah, I was in group number 6, and we agreed that we would like to know more about good practices that promote interfaith dialogue, whether in classroom setting or in any other context. So yeah, we thought that this would be a very valuable addition for us to discuss.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for your comment. I think maybe we can also address a little bit the idea of doing it in the frames of formal education shortly. Who would like to go next? Which group is ready?
Hi, normally you can hear me now.
Yes, we can.
Yes. So I'm from room 3. We had 2 questions, or maybe 3. The first was some of us needed some practical tools to approach the dialogue, and tools for there was maybe a different kind of tool for like the dialogue in a little group or one-to-one or like 10 or 20 people, or starting a dialogue in an organization that is like 300, 400, 500 people. So that was one question, and the other one, I think the question was, when you have one country where there's one religion very much there, and you want to start a dialogue with other religion, how do you do that when one is very much there?
Mhm. Yeah, thank you
I
very
think.
much. I hope Meg took a notice of it. From what I understood, what are the different methods depending on the size of the group as well? I just wanted to also put off the pressure from Meg's shoulders too much, because we have 5 talks on interfaith dialogue, and many of them will focus on specific different methodologies like storytelling. So yeah, maybe to give a little bit of a contextual answer, but leave out the details because we still have 4 more talks to talk a little bit more methodology. Today is more setting the ground for intercultural interfaith dialogue. Please, who would like to go next?
Hello, everybody. Our group was talking about the challenges that we are facing in interfaith dialogue, and the main challenges was people are not interested, and other challenges may be interconnected related to safe environment. It's difficult to provide safe environment where people are ready to share their, we spoke about being honest, we spoke about being empathic listener, but, this environment is sometimes difficult to have it in different countries, even in very advanced democracies. Also, some people prefer to do it with friends. So it's like in a very, very smaller scale than it should be. So these are some challenges and ideas. And, I think we all share these. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mamoun. Spoilers alert, 2 of our future speakers are here today with us. One of them, Mamoun, and Fren was also here before the break. So yeah, it's nice that there are already links between the different topics happening. And now I see a hand from Sylvia, which happens to be 2 people behind the screen. And next will be Alina, a long-time lost friend that I finally suddenly see in idtalks. Please.
Me
Sylvia.
too.
Can everybody hear us?
Yes.
We are actually a group of 6 people. We were in group 6, if there's others. Nisrin asked the question, what are the limitations of dialogue? Which is a really interesting question. And immediately it raised another question. What are the limitations? Where does dialogue end? But it raises also the question, where does dialogue begin? So that was 2 questions combined in one question.
Yeah, thank you very much. Task for Meg is becoming more and more complex as many very big questions are coming in. Alina, please, you have the floor.
Yeah, I was in group 1 and we had several questions. One was a need to understand better the connection between faith, religion, and culture in individuals and cultures to be able to address it. And another question was an understanding how to critically address the truth that we hold about the faith and religious, and how these truths are used in a broader ideology, and how is it possible to address, because it's so linked to our values and identity. And also I cannot not mention one of the participants shared very beautiful experiences from a city, Shkodër, in Albania, where the interfaith dialogue is very strong between free faiths, and I was mentioning examples of how faith leaders are involved in creating the dialogue and in combating domestic violence. And there is a community center with very active participation in the community. And it was nice to hear very on the ground examples.
Thank you very much, Alina. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on behalf of their group? Christos, please.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yes, we
Okay.
can.
Okay, I think I was in room 2, and we really talked about dialogue, because it was surprising for us to learn like the actual definition, like we see in the presentation. And personally, as a Greek person, I didn't even know that it had a Latin origin, and it was very surprising. And we didn't have any question, but we were really stating that it's good that there is this like now presentation, because we now see that there is a connection between the religion and spirituality that we have, and that with dialogues that the people have to not impose themselves to the other person and be able to actually go back a bit and like maybe I was wrong with my opinion, that maybe that's actually a better thing, like, that the person said. So yeah, it
Thank
was
you.
a very nice talk with in the presentation, and I think a lot of people need to learn.
Yeah, thank you for the feedback and thank you for the nice words. I think we still have time for the nice words in the very end of our today's talk. Now I'm calling Meg up for a challenge, maybe maximum of 10 minutes to address questions that the civilization has been struggling to address for centuries and thousands of years. Please take your stance.
All right. So I put together a few of the questions, and I think I will start with the practical ones. So there were questions about practical tools to approach dialogue, and also in terms of big group or small group, and how to organize it, and also the first question on group practices, like what are the different practices that promote interfaith dialogue. So one of the things, at least in my experience, that is essential is that the intention of doing the dialogue. Yeah. So first, the intention of having a dialogue means it stems from people or a group of people who want to come together and who want to discuss and who want to share perspectives. So the intention is very, very important, and that's one of the main elements for me, that is the starting point of any dialogue. In terms of group practices, in terms of actual practical ways to do dialogue. So when there is the intention, then people who come together or who want to come together into to have a dialogue, or to into promoting or doing a dialogue, would have a set of objectives. Yeah. So why are we coming together, and what are we going to dialogue about? Is it about religion? Is it about how different our faiths are? Is it about how we can share and interact and coexist in a small city or in a small space? Is it about traditions? Is it about weddings? Is it about, so we would have kind of like narrowed down objectives, and that will help us identify what are the tools that we would like to use. So if our objective is to exchange and to share and to be able to understand, let's say in a neighborhood or in a village, to be able to understand the different faiths that coexist in that village, then what we can do is to have a sharing of the different faiths. Yeah. So I think that's kind of like very basic. It was mentioned earlier, the powerful role of storytelling. Storytelling really plays a big role because it stems out from the experience of people who will be in the dialogue, to share a story, to share a personal experience that could bring into the other people who might have a different worldview or point of view, an understanding a deeper understanding of the faith that is being shared, for example. Another important element which can also come in as a practical tool is consciously naming a dialogue. So when we want to do a dialogue, when we were doing it between Muslims and Christians, for example, here in the Philippines, we we constantly and visibly and really name it that this is a dialogue, and we try to explain what is a dialogue, that it is about coming together and understanding and putting ourselves in the shoes or in the perspective of the other faith, for example. So that consciousness of labeling interfaith dialogue is also a very important element. One of the another practical tool that can also help is what we call visits or immersions. What we did, for example, when we wanted the young Christians and young Muslims to understand about each other's faith and religion deeper, is that we organized visits to the church, to the mosque, and kind of like to find the deeper meaning in these places of worship, for example, where young people can understand, okay, what are the rules in this place of worship? Why is it that men and women, for example, are separate in the mosque? Things like that, just to have a better understanding of how things work in the day-to-day reality of these different religious groups. There was this mention earlier about kind of linking to the challenge, a safe space, to have a safe venue or safe space to be able to be honest and to be authentic and to be truly open. And in any dialogue, the concept of safe space is very important, and that's why one of the practical tools, for example, that I would like to propose when you would like to do a dialogue is to make sure that in a dialogue setting, you are, for example, seated in a circle where people can see each other face to face. I think in youth work, we can relate a lot to this, where when there's no block, we can see each other face to face, where people are sitting comfortably or in a position where they can comfortably stay for a long time, for example, when the discussions are flourishing. Another practical tool, just very quickly, is there are some dialogue formats wherein it is actually started either by NGOs or it is started by faith leaders. And for example, in the case where it is organized or started by faith leaders, it is also very important to see from that perspective that the ones who are inviting in this dialogue have different voices. So for example, not just because it happened to us when we were doing a dialogue about Christianity and Islam in Mindanao, wherein it's majority Muslim, and if the voice is kind of very strongly about Catholicism, there could tend to be like a resistance, because then if there's only one voice doing the invitation, for example, it can come out as, you are here to do the dialogue to convert us, which was not the case. So it's good when faith leaders, for example, come together and have kind of like a united voice and say that we are here because we share different faiths, we share different religions, and we would like to invite people to come together in a safe space. So yes, there's a lot more, and I think it's very challenging to address so many questions sitting in different angles. I would like to address another one that that struck me, which is what are the limitations of dialogue? Yeah, and where does it begin as well? So the limitations actually in any dialogue or in anything that we do is something related to many different aspects or elements. First is the time. Depending on how much time that we have, if we want to have a dialogue, for example, where we want to dig deeper about things about faith, and we just allot, for example, like an hour or 30 minutes, then for sure the time is already not in your shoulder. Second is agenda. I would say that in some dialogues, as I mentioned earlier, there's an objective, there's an intention, and sometimes when we have very strict agendas or we have very strict objectives that we want to fulfill, and sometimes when the dialogue is actually not flowing towards that objective or that purpose, then imagine how the process is actually not supporting what we want to have. And sometimes it's not really a bad thing that something is derailed, because then we see that maybe in this detour there's something else that has to be tackled, there's something else that has to be put out in the open, and not so much the objective or the original purpose that we wanted to do. So sometimes we can set these limitations ourselves, when we don't have much time and we have these limitation in terms of objective, and we want to push or we want to make sure that we reach this objective. Sometimes the process can suffer, and that in itself becomes a limitation. Where does dialogue start? Dialogue starts, I think, very, very important when people come together and have this intention to have a dialogue and to share. I think it's very, very simple, very self-explanatory, that like what was shared in one of the challenges, people are not interested. So how do we invite people to be interested or to have a dialogue when they're not interested in the first place? Yeah. So on the other aspect is how to promote dialogue, but when you are there right then and there and people are not interested, then just forget about it, because then there is no the concept of dialogue in terms of sharing, in terms of transformative understanding about each other is not there, because there is no intention and there is no interest. So let's not push it. Let's not call it a dialogue. And it actually happened. I think it happened to me. We called something dialogue, but then we felt that it was really very one-sided. And so we said, okay, let's just make this an exchange and not call it a dialogue. And this goes back to the first thing that I shared earlier about consciously naming or consciously labeling something as dialogue. Sometimes when we label, it can backfire on us. But I think in the context of dialogue, it's very important to make people understand that we are here not to change each other's views, but we are here to try to understand each other's perspectives, and we are here to try to also transform our own understanding of things. So I think that is this consciousness of saying we are in a dialogue is very important in any dialogue practice or in any dialogue format. Last, very, very difficult question. When you have one country with one religion very much there, no, very, very strong, and you want to start dialogue with other religion, how do you do that? Again, we go back to the idea that it has to come with this intention. So if you have people who are from a minority religion, for example, come together and and have this invitation that you are there because you want to share, you want to be understood, you want to share, and you want to open up, and knowing that this country, for example, is very much only Muslim. But then you will see in one of the work that I did, I mentioned that I worked on dialogue in Indonesia, and Indonesia is very Muslim country. But what happened was that we found an opportunity to actually bridge people and bring people who are fundamental, very extreme in terms of their faith and religion, and bring those who are a little bit more progressive, a little bit more liberal, and those who are not so much. So finding an intention, I think, is very, very important. Even in this situation wherein you feel that there's a major religion, and there's no room for you to budge in or to butt in because you are a minority. I think having a group to come together and initiate something, and be clear with your intention of having such dialogue is going to be really helpful. Yeah, I'm so challenged because there's
Thank
a
you
lot
very
more,
much.
more questions.
Well, maybe you are challenged, but it's not obvious because Meg, thank you so much. It's so clear that everything you're saying is not just the theory, but so much driven from your practice and work. And I think this is, in my definition, dialogue is a lot of work, and you just do it. You don't talk about it somehow. Thank you very much. Well, now the magic moment of our every ID talk is going to happen. We will ask Olaja to share the graphic notes with us. In the meantime, please, in the chat, write maybe 1 or 2 words of how was this talk for you today, just as a general feedback for us and our today's speaker, Meg. In the meantime, Olaja, we are ready for the... Yeah, we're ready for the slide. I see that Meg is the most surprised one. Do you want to say some words about it, Olaja?
I hope you can hear me. Could you confirm?
Yes, we can.
Yes, I'm so happy. I have some unusual working conditions today, so I'm very happy. And yeah, very shortly, just to say that as usual, there are always modifications happening to the visual notes. This is the very first version. But then there will be a second version, including all the comments that Meg has provided us now, and many, many insights and all these practices that we were asking for. So they will be integrated. So probably the second version will change a little bit, and you will get it directly in your email. So this is like the taster, we can say.
Thank you very much, Olaja. It's always fascinating how somebody can listen and record it in this amazing way. Thank you very much. Well, on behalf of the team, I would like to just really thank you, Meg, for taking the time, regardless of the time difference and your busy schedule, to be here, to share with us, and to set a ground for the series of ID talks on interfaith dialogue. Thank you very much, and we hope to see you again. Bye-bye.